college football. We got lots of action this weekend. The SEC is back in action. And for all your SEC coverage, you want to check out Thinking Out Loud on the SEC Network Monday nights at 8 p.m. One of the members of that show joins us right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon Boykin2. That's right. The Georgia Bulldog, former Eagles cornerback, joins us right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Brandon, how you doing this Friday?
I'm good, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, speaking of you being a former Eagle, the Eagles have a lot of injuries. Are you available Sunday night?
Hey, I am available. Tell Howard to give me a call. Tell Howard to hit me up.
I mean, you got about three quarterbacks down for the team right now. They only got three healthy guys, so I was just wondering if you might be available. So,
yeah, man, I'm available. But no, man, that's really to be expected in 2020. Like with no preseason and no OTAs, like we knew injuries were going to be a factor, and like dudes just got to have some depth. And I think the Eagles will get back on track, especially this week for sure.
Well, we're all keeping our fingers crossed because, you know, going 0-3-1 would be a horrible look, and you know how the city of Philadelphia is, my friend.
And somehow you still can win the East. Like, that's a good sign, though.
Well, is it a good sign, or is it more like, as you said, it's 2020? So
Right. 2020. We know what 2020 is going to give us. So if it's got to start like this, at least the entire NFC East is doing, like, the same thing. So, like, you know, things will get better for sure as the camaraderie picks up.
Yeah, I hear you. So you got this new show, Thinking Out Loud, on the SEC Network. Before we get to some of the games and the teams around the SEC, I want to know, how exciting is it for you to be part of this show? I know that there's a bit of a pedigree at ESPN with that show. Guys like Marcus Spears and others that used to be on that show, now they're on new shows, and for you, it's pretty cool. But also, you're getting chomped at by two Gators on each side of you. What's going on with that?
Yeah, man, it's a lot of different dynamics going on. Like you said, for me, playing in the SEC, being from Georgia, and then obviously getting drafted to Philly, spending time there, it's cool to come back and talk about the SEC. And my co-hosts in there, Spencer and RJ, they definitely are Florida guys and writers. So giving me a whole nother perspective, not just from being at rival school, but like being writers and having to deal with their takes and them coming at me both ways. So it's fun, though. It's enjoyable, and it's a cool experience for sure.
I mean, for me, selfishly, I just like seeing a defensive guy get some shine as a former safety myself. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like some of these quarterbacks and offensive guys get a little too much TV time. They act like the defensive players don't do any film work either.
Exactly. That, number one, they don't think that we got to get a space for TV. You know what I'm saying? They think we hit people and we ugly. So it's cool to be on TV as a defensive guy representing for us. But also, yeah, like you said, to give a defensive perspective. Like we know offense, and there's a lot of quarterbacks on TV, and there's a lot of running backs and receivers. But a guy who plays defense like Marcus Spears did, and me being a corner and, being able to play in the secondary, it gives you a whole other perspective that you can kind of share with fans and teach them football from another angle. So that's the part that I'm enjoying and looking forward to.
Again, it's Thinking Out Loud every Monday night at 8 p.m. Brandon Boykin on the show. That's on the SEC Network. Of course, you could watch it live or do what I do, which is DVR it each week. That way I don't miss out on anything. Brandon, I got to ask you about some of these games around the SEC, these teams. First of all, the SEC being back, we saw a lot of offense out there in week one. As a defensive guy, what are you seeing out there? Is it as much the offenses being good, or some of these defenses maybe just not up to par yet?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think what we've seen is like the SEC has transitioned into a passing league, and who would have thought that? But I think that's just football in general. As football transitions, like you're passing the ball more, there's less and less running backs getting carries. And the thing that we're so used to in the SEC is like powerhouse running teams. You know what I'm saying? Guys getting 20 carries a game and just being running back university no different than Georgia, but that's a transition period. So points are going to be scored for sure, whether we like it or not. Like you can have an amazing defense, but if you're throwing the ball 60 times a game, chances are they might score twice or maybe three times. You know what I'm saying? So 20, 25 points is not atypical anymore in the SEC.
of all the offenses in the SEC, if you could point to one and say that's the one I can't wait to watch each week. I know it's hard to pick one, but I feel like between the Mike Leach offense with Mississippi State, the Lane Kiffin train over there, and Ole Miss, Kyle Trask over there at Florida, you got some choices there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all were surprised by what Mississippi State did, and but we also knew that LSU had lost a ton of people, so that might have happened. I want to see how that looks going forward, but obviously that would be like a wow. Florida looks amazing on offense. They, it looks like they're scoring at will, and they've got dudes all over the field like Grimes and Tony and Kyle Pitts that Trask can get the ball to. And they also have running backs that can catch out of the backfield. But kind of like you said, the Ole Miss team and their offense is what surprised me. Like Matt Corral at quarterback doing what he did, and they also got John Rice Plumlee that can play quarterback but play receiver and do all these different things. And they're moving the ball and scoring. So I'm excited to see these powerhouse offenses kind of go against each other, because that's what people want to see in reality. Like, I know we're defensive guys, but people want to see points being scored. And in the SEC now, you're legit going to see teams scoring a lot, which is fun.
You mentioned Kyle Trask. Is he a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate?
Well, if we're judging just off week one, he probably already got the award, right? But if you take KJ out of the picture, what he did for Mississippi State, but I absolutely think so. I think not just because of what he can do from an ability standpoint, but because his team is very good, and they're going to be winning games. And I think not every year, but a lot of times that matters. So if he's putting up those type of numbers and they're also winning, and he's a pivotal part of that, I think he definitely will be in the race for sure.
Brandon Boykin joining us here on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Catch his show Thinking Out Loud, 8 p.m. on Monday nights on the SEC Network. Tomorrow on television on the SEC Network, Missouri at Tennessee at noon, Ole Miss at Kentucky at 4, LSU at Vanderbilt 7:30, and also Arkansas and Mississippi State. That's on the SEC Network Plus side. Mm-hmm. Brandon, I want to touch on a couple of these games tomorrow with you. I got to start with the noon game. That Missouri team, they pretty much only started playing when Alabama took their foot off the pedal. Tennessee's an interesting team because I don't really know what to expect of them. I mean, I thought that the game between them and the Gamecocks, South Carolina, at night was pretty good. But I mean, is Tennessee legit?
You know what? I was asking myself the same thing. I think that it's a different Tennessee team in terms of them playing 4 complete quarters. Like we saw last year where they lost to Georgia State. They lost to teams early on, and it's because they just completely folded. And I think a lot of that was the quarterback play. And Jared Garantano looked really good this past week. He controlled the game. He controlled the tempo. He didn't turn the ball over. And those are things that he did last year early on as they progressed through the season. It kind of got a little bit better, but they also played multiple quarterbacks. So I think he's trying to establish himself as the guy because they do have a backup in Brian Maurer that can play. And even last year, he was actually beating Alabama and had a huge part of that. So I think they can be legit if the quarterback position is stout and sturdy, because that's where it starts for sure.
I mentioned the 4 o'clock game on the SEC Network tomorrow is Ole Miss versus Kentucky. Listen, I love Lane Kiffin on Twitter, but Lane Kiffin in real life's got to win some games to keep getting these jobs. And
oh yeah,
listen, that defense couldn't stop anybody. That offense looked really a lot of fun. So what do you expect for an Ole Miss team going against a Kentucky team that I think was, frankly, really disappointing last week?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I agree. I think defensively, it starts with their pass rush. Like Ole Miss's pass rush last week was bad. It was Kyle Trask had all day to throw the ball, and they just looked tired. They looked tired, and the tempo wasn't that fast to the point where they couldn't get set and blitz the quarterback. So it has to start there. Like you can score like Ole Miss did and Matt Corral throw touchdowns, but if you're giving up points every time you score, you're not going to win, half of those games. That's just how it works. So I think the key for them is defensively, actually. Like they have to get pressure, they have to get turnovers, and that's something that in week one they look really bad doing. So that's the key for Ole Miss, in my opinion.
here on 97.3 ESPN tomorrow night, the SEC Showdown, Georgia versus Auburn. A lot of eyeballs are going to be on that game. And I got to ask you, what is going on with Georgia, though? Because, I mean, they got 3 different quarterbacks. I mean, is Daniels going to play? Is Bennett going to play? Is Mathis going to get back into the lineup? I mean, sometimes they say having too many quarterbacks means you don't have actually any quarterback.
Right, 100%. I think the best thing Georgia has going right now is that they have an experienced defense as they transition in on offense on all sides. Right, they had Jake Fromm for the past 3 years, and like he's been the staple of being healthy and consistent from a standpoint of winning games for Georgia. And now you got to start all over, not just at quarterback, but offensive coordinator. And even a whole new offense, right? They're going to kind of like an air raid type thing with Todd Monken, but you can't really have an air raid if you don't have a quarterback to do it. So I think while they fill it out, they have people who are capable, but they just kind of got to fill it out. Like we said, it's 2020. They didn't have spring practice. Camp was kind of cut short, and then you put a freshman quarterback basically in an away game for his first start with a new offense. That's not going to end up well, but I think they'll progress throughout the season. And I actually think DeJuan's going to get another chance to play at some point, and the depth might be something that's going to benefit Georgia down the line.
Of those 3 quarterbacks, do you think a guy makes more sense right now between Mathis, Bennett, and Daniel?
Yep, I do. I think it's the one that's moving the ball. So if it was me, I'd put Stetson Bennett in because, it's an SEC-only schedule. We know no matter the opponent in the SEC, if you're 0-7 or 7-0, like that 0-7 team is just as capable of beating you as any team. That's how the SEC is. So there really is no time to experiment or let people progress, which is crazy to say, but you got to go with what's working. And the game was pretty much dead until Stetson came in and started moving the ball and giving that offense confidence. So I think moving forward, I'd say it was his job to lose as long as he's doing what he did consistently last game.
On the flip side, Auburn, I know a lot of people love to talk about Bo Nix, but I got some concerns about the trenches because you graduated 2 offensive linemen who are now in Philadelphia, one of them being Jack Driscoll, started week 1. And on the defensive side, Dwayne Brown, first-round pick. They also graduated a couple other guys on the defense. So is this a game for Auburn to prove that their trenches are not as thin as maybe someone like me thinks they are?
Absolutely. I think you hit it on the head. Like, people want to know how they're going to reload in those positions that they were so stout at last year. Getting to the quarterback, making pressure on the quarterback. They lost half of their production in sacks and those 2 guys, over more than half of that. So that's something that's got to be replaced. And I think, this is the perfect game. If I'm talking from a non-biased perspective, this is the perfect game for them to show that. Like, Georgia is inconsistent at quarterback play. Georgia's offensive line is young. It's going to be a first home game for them. So there's a lot of things going on for them. And if they can get pressure early, they can kind of dictate the tempo of the game. As we know, Georgia wants to throw the ball, and running it is what they're comfortable doing. But if you're running the ball and not scoring, that clock will be ticking.
Of course, the game tomorrow night can be heard right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock. Auburn versus Georgia, one of the oldest, I think it's the second oldest rivalry in all of college football, going down. 7:30 kickoff for that game. Brandon, one more before I let you go, and I appreciate your time today. Outside the SEC, is there a team or is there a player or is there something that you love watching in college football this year so far that's a non-SEC story?
Non-SEC story. I honestly, it's weird to say, but I'm liking watching Georgia Tech play, even though they've been getting smashed. It's different because when I've watched them play in the past, like, obviously it was wing T. They ran the option. So now when you see them play, it's actually football. And even though, like, they are in a transition period, they got pieces. And I think the rivalry between Georgia and Georgia Tech used to be something special. And if they can kind of get back to a style of playing competitively, which I feel like they've got pieces in the games that I've watched, I think that'll be something in state for Georgia that'll be fun. But They've got to be better defensively for sure. I think Georgia Tech's corner play isn't that great, but running back wise, they've got talent. Receiver wise, they've got talent. And then they've even got a young quarterback that's a dual threat guy. As he grows, I think he'll be better. So I've been watching him and I'm intrigued with the talent, but it hasn't necessarily transitioned to like winning football yet.
I hear you. I mean, Jeff Sims, he's a freshman, but he shows you little flashes out there. You know, not just with the running, but he's got an electric arm on him too.
Yeah, exactly. Like he can throw the ball down the field, and he's a little quick to run, but he's kind of. I've seen the progression throughout the past 2 games of him like trying to be a little bit more patient, and then also like with a dual quarterback, learning how to slide and get down and protect yourself. And I think he's done a pretty good job of that so far.
He's Brandon Boykin. Catch him on Monday nights, Thinking Out Loud, 8 p.m. Monday nights on the SEC Network. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Brandon Boykin2. And as all guests, he appeared here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Brandon, appreciate the time and the conversation. I'll let Howie know that you're available.
Yeah, let Howie know. I'll be able to suit up as long as he has a number 22 available. See you guys, man.
Brandon, take care of yourself.
All right.
Josh Hennick here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Great stuff there from Brandon Boykin. Again, check out the show, Thinking Out Loud. That's 8 p.m. Monday nights on the SEC Network.